Leafs fans are livid at this as a shocking new report has dropped as it pertains to Mitch Marner and his future in Toronto. And following a fantastic deadline by Brad Treliving, these reports have dropped and fans are furious. Stay tuned for all that in this episode. But before we get into a quick reminder, hit that subscribe button. If you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Leafs content. Your guys' support has been unbelievable as we're on the road to 16,000 subscribers. With Darius, there's a lot to go over today. And we finally get to watch some of their moves play tonight. Scott Laughton and of course the defenseman as well. It's going to be an exciting day. Brandon Carlo is going to make his Leafs debut. That's what I'm most excited for. But Mitch Marner has kind of taken some of the headlines, and that's because of course, the Mikko Rantanen extension. Some reports dropped late last night, and let's dive right into them here. So we'll start with this one. There's a lot to go over here. Per Chris Johnson with the guys, Leafs forever, Mitch Marner is more than willing to go to market in the offseason. And there is a lot, and we'll get into a crazy quote here in a minute, but essentially it seems the Leafs are pretty frustrated with Mitch Marner's current situation. All he cares about is the money, it seems like at this point, which is fair enough. I mean, he has the right to do that, but given the Mikko Rantanen contract and how the Leafs just went all in, it seems like they were very heavily in on Mikko Rantanen, because they expect Mitch Marner to leave, and it seems that he is looking for the maximum dollar possible, which makes sense.
There's a lot to break down here. I think this was strategically planned yesterday. I mean, this happened in 2019 after Austin Matthews signed as well. The day he signed his contract, there was a story about Mitch Marner wanting more money or something like that. I can't remember the exact story that came out. But of course, the day of the trade deadline and the fact that the Leafs made a couple big moves, of course, there's a story about Mitch Marner as well. So I think that this was, I can't believe Darren Ferris and, everything that's been going on with this and the fact that Mitch Marner at this point, everything we know, he's turned down pretty much the exact same contract as Mikko Rantanen at this point, so he wants to make more than him, which makes sense. We'll get to a breakdown later in the video because of all the taxes and stuff like that, because Rantanen signed in Dallas, so he's going to be making more, but we'll get into that later. But, I don't know if I have much interest in cheering for a guy who's openly at this point pretty much saying, I want the money. I don't care about the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'll leave if I can get more money elsewhere, right? And guys like Austin Matthews and William Nylander pretty much signed without any difficulty, right? And they want to be Toronto Maple Leafs and they want to win here. So for this to be prolonged like this, and for the fact that all these reports are coming out about the Leafs being frustrated with this contract negotiation, I'm getting a little tired of it myself personally, and I think the fan base is getting kind of tired of this game that's being played.
Seems so. Let's dive into some of the reports. You can see this here. Well, this is a comment from a Leafs fan. 2 weeks ago, Mitch Marner was Canadian Heroes. Four Nations performance did a ton from a PR perspective for him amongst the fan base. Then on the day, his GM sends the fan base into a frenzy with two huge moves. He douses it with cold water by leaking this through Chris Johnson. Why? Just why? And what he leaks even more from James Myrtle. The Leafs are frustrated with the Marner negotiations. They really wanted to get it done, and he's pretty sure they've offered him more than what Rantanen just signed for. That's why the Leafs were all in on Rantanen, because they know Mitch Marner is in it only for the most money he can get, which is fine. I mean, at the end of the day, it makes sense for the player to want to get the most money. I'm not going to hold anything against him for that. However, someone had to have leaked this, or there's a reason that this came out now, whether it's Mitch Marner, whether it's Darren Ferris. Regardless, yesterday was a day where most Leafs fans are pretty excited. Today is still a day. I'm still excited whether or not Mitch Marner is going to extend. However, it is an interesting time for this to come out. Maybe it wasn't Mitch Marner's camp. Maybe someone leaked the report, and it wouldn't really make sense for the Leafs front office to leak this. But either way, maybe it is the Leafs front office because they want to put pressure on Mitch Marner to get the extension done. Whatever it is, I'm fine with him wanting the most money. However, I think there's something to be said about the Leafs being frustrated with the negotiations because they've offered him more than Mikko Rantanen just signed for. And you could argue that Mikko Rantanen is a better player.
Yeah, you could argue that he's won a Stanley Cup as well. And this is not me taking anything away from Mitch Marner. Like you said, this is a player who wants the most money possible. You know what? If I was in the same situation, I'd probably be doing the same thing. But as a fan, what is the fan base supposed to think about this when two of your other best players signed with really no issue? And Nylander for less than probably he's worth on the open market as well, right? Especially right now with the salary cap going up. So that is something to consider as well. And I think Mitch Marner is a great player, one of the best in the league, and he plays in all situations. So I'm not taking anything away from the player, but the situation that the team is in. Now, you can't really compare. Rantanen signed for $12 million. His take home is much more playing in Dallas than it would be in Toronto. I think if Mitch Marner signed, I think we actually have a breakdown here, Nick, but if Mitch Marner signed for $16 million a year, he would be making the same take home as Mikko Rantanen would be making $12 million a year, right? And you're not signing Mitch Marner to $16 million. So that is something to consider as well, right? I'm not trying to dump on the player entirely, but as a fan and the situation that the Leafs are in, it is what it is, right? They can only sign him to a certain amount, and they've offered him that, and it seems like he's turned it down, and maybe they'll reconvene after after the season. So I think they should reconvene after the season anyway. Let's see how the playoffs go, right? Like I think Leaf fans are going to be real tired of everything in this entire core if they lose again in the first or the second round in the same fashion, right? So they should probably reconvene after the playoffs anyway. And hey, if they win a Stanley Cup, then there's all is good anyway, right? So we will see what happens with that. But I think that there is a lot to consider here, especially with the take-home amount of money, as you can see on your screen right now. But still, it's frustrating for the Leafs, for Leafs fans. You know, they want to get this done, and it's going to be really interesting to see if they're able to get it done before the playoffs. I don't think that's the case, and what this looks like once the playoffs are done.
Yeah, these are a lot of numbers here, so feel free to pause and
Yeah,
go through them. It's a full breakdown of the
it's a
tax
great breakdown.
differential. And you see this here. I hope Dan first knows the damage done to the Marner name and how unfixable this is unless they come to a proper contract resolution after Marner shows up in the playoffs. Those leaks are poorly timed every single time. I'm going to be honest. I don't think it really matters as much as some people are saying. Like, I don't think Mitch Marner cares. I really just don't think that he is necessarily. I don't know if he cares that much about what the fan base thinks at the end of the day, as long as he gets his money, which I mean is fair enough. You can see this here. Toronto's willingness to swing big on Mika Rantanen tells you all you need to know about Mitch Marner's future. Treliving is open to seismic change, and he should be a massive postseason coming. That's true. I mean, at the end of this offseason, they should have probably. I don't know. I don't want to say they should have moved on from Mitch Marner last season because he's having a fantastic year, and he's one of the reasons the Leafs are one of the best teams in the league. But at the end of the day, if they're probably not going to get an extension done before the season ends, and then in the free agency, I'm curious to see if they pivot to somebody else. It won't be Mikko Rantanen because he signed an extension with the Dallas Stars. But on the flip side, you can see here, not sure anyone's surprised at the Marner Leafs yesterday. He's chased the bag every chance he's been given. The relationship between him and the Leafs was over after last year's playoff run, and with Rantanen extended, Marner's the top guy in the market. At the end of the day, that is true. Like Marner probably gained some leverage with Mikko Rantanen being traded to the Stars and extending there, albeit it's only at, but it's 8 years, $12 million. You assume Mitch Marner would want a little bit more than that, which is something interesting as well. But it's a very interesting time for these leaks to come out, and fans are interesting. At the same time, the quote again is more than willing. So it doesn't necessarily mean things are over. It doesn't mean that he doesn't want to be a Leaf. He said openly he wants to be one, but I think it depends if the Leafs are going to want to pay him Austin Matthews money more than Austin Matthews money at the end of the day.
I've seen that argument as well online. I've seen that a ton, and I know a lot of people like Mitch Marner, and you should because he's a great player, right? But just because he says he wants to be a Toronto Maple Leaf doesn't mean that that's the case. Actions speak louder than words, so it doesn't really matter what Mitch Marner says. If he doesn't sign, he doesn't sign. But I think we have to wait for the offseason. I know they're trying to get a contract extension done, obviously, so they know kind of what's in place. I'm sure Treliving would like to get this done to obviously retain the player, first of all, and to know kind of what the salary cap situation is going to be heading into the offseason. But I don't know if you can really do that. You have to wait for the playoffs. If this is a player that doesn't show up again, because make no mistake about it, right? Puts up a lot of points in the first 2 games of every series that he plays, but after that, kind of goes away, right? And playoffs are about the moments when you come up big in certain moments, and he hasn't really done that. So, you know, if the same thing happens again, I wonder if Brandon Shanahan's gone too. Mitch Marner could be gone. It really depends on this postseason, because if it's more of the same, you have to shake it up anyway, and it seems like Brad Treliving is open to doing that. And I think, especially after this postseason, it probably should have happened 2 postseasons ago, but especially after this one, when you have the opportunity to, you know, shake it up, make some change, you definitely have to if things go the same way. But after the Four Nations face-off, you know, he played well. So I do have faith. I am excited about this playoff run, and I do think that he added in a lot of areas of need. It's a good team. They built a good team in the offseason as well. So we'll see where it goes. I am excited for the playoffs, but it's going to be interesting to see, you know, what happens with this situation as we go along here.
Yeah, and it starts tonight with the debut of Scott Lawn and Brandon Carlo. We'll keep you up to date. We'll be live following tonight's game as well. So make sure to stay tuned for that. We'll see you guys later.